Coach Greg McDermott, I'm going to be honest with you. You are probably the most mentioned coach on the Rush Radio Show because we have Bill Fenley on a lot, and we had Hendo on from Drake the other day, and he mentions you. You're a popular guy on this show.
I think I'm an old guy. I think that's what that means. I think I've been around long enough that I pretty much know everybody. So, but those are two of the best right there.
What is that relationship with Bill Fenley? Because I'm serious. I mean, for years he's come on and he just – I mean, I know you made that connection at Iowa State, but you can tell there's a real connection between you two.
Yeah, obviously, I had a tough go at Iowa State. We were never able to really get it turned around. And if the transfer portal was the way it is today, we could have probably turned it relatively quickly, but that wasn't the case back then. And he was just a great mentor and friend to me and to our family. So we've stayed in touch over the years, and he's in my opinion, one of the best coaches in the game, on the men's side or the women's side. So, he's always ready if I have a question, and we share a couple plays back and forth during the course of the season.
Yeah. You know what it takes to compete at a lot of levels, and we'll maybe talk about that Iowa State stuff and those differences that happen in that, Coach. But let's talk about Coach Henderson for just a moment as well, because by all accounts, Drake landed a wonderful coach. What would you share about Coach Henderson? Yeah,
I mean, they landed even a better person. I first met him when he was 17 years old when I recruited him out of Maquoketa Valley, and he was a big reason that my coaching career took off, because he was an incredible culture guy, an unbelievable leader, and a heck of a player for us, for a guy that really couldn't shoot and couldn't make a free throw to save his rear. But he's what you see is what you get with Hendo. I haven't met many guys in my life that have never had a bad day, and he's one of them. So, and as I told Brian when we talked about him leading up to his interview, his attitude and his personality is going to be infectious in their department, because he's going to make you smile. It doesn't matter what's going on in your life that day. He's going to walk in the room and he's going to uplift you. And obviously, his work stands for itself. He's done an unbelievable job at South Dakota State. And he works really hard. I think he's really going to connect with the community in a way that I think Drake fans are really going to enjoy.
A lot more pressure at that job now for what D-Rock did and Ben McCollum as well. All of a sudden, there's pressure at Drake to win now. When you were in the Valley, Drake wasn't that good.
Yeah, they had one year in particular that they were pretty dang good. When was it Josh Young? Was that his name? What was Josh's last name?
Yes.
Yeah. That I think was Keno the coach that year.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a heck of a basketball team.
Wow.
But I think things have changed at Drake since then too. I think there's a commitment level, and being so close to D-Rock and now Hendo, and listen to them speak about Brian and his leadership. There's a reason that they've been successful. And I think the pieces are in place. And obviously, anytime you're starting over and trying to rebuild an entire roster, it's not easy. And I stopped in Des Moines last week on my way back to Cascade and took Hendo to Jethro's for the first time. And he's really excited about this roster and thinks they can add a couple more pieces. And, he'll get them back where they need to be.
All right, so you've mentioned this kind of changing culture, the transfer portal, how you started by talking about how you're an old guy and been around a long time. Most of the coaches that claim to be old guys and around a long time, they're slow to the transition, they're resistant. Heck, some of them are getting out of the game. You're not that way. You've kind of stayed ahead of the curve here. These changes that have happened are what allowed you to stay ahead of the curve? Do you feel like you're ahead of the curve?
Yeah, I think there's been, Ross, so many changes in the 35 years I've been in the profession. And as things have changed, you either figure out a way to adapt or you're going to get left behind. And these were certainly monumental changes. I think the transfer portal in itself, the 1 year, immediate eligibility, would have been a huge change to our game. You add to it NIL at the same time and the ability for them to earn money for their name, image, and likeness. That in itself would have been a huge change. But when they hit together, it was a shock, I think, to the college athletic world. And we had a plan in place that first year that at least allowed us to be competitive. And the support in Omaha has been incredible. So we've been able to at least come up with enough NIL money to be competitive, not necessarily at the top of our league. But I think we're in the upper half. And I think if you can do that and have enough where you can be competitive, I think relationships and style of play and all that stuff then matters. But if you don't have a number that works, that stuff doesn't mean quite what it used to mean. So, but I still think there are young people and their families that are looking for a particular situation, a particular style of play, and fortunately we've been able to find those guys.
Are there advantages to being a basketball only school? Everybody talks about football paying the bills, and they're like, well, how is the Big East going to make it in this world of millions of dollars? But are there advantages for a basketball only school for guys that only want to play basketball?
Yeah, I mean, it's as a player, not having a football team is kind of nice because I remember at Iowa State, every home football game, our guys were on call because you had recruits in every home football game. So your players really didn't have a chance to get out of town prior to the start of your season unless the football team was on the road. So that part of it's kind of nice. Our guys kind of have their weekends unless we have a kid on campus. But it's the football schools have such a big number coming from their television contracts compared to a basketball only league. And while the Big East is, in terms of leagues that don't have football, we're at the top, but it pales in comparison to the millions and millions of dollars that the Big Ten and the SEC, the Big 12, and the ACC are being paid. So the good news is we can go as far as we want to go with NIL, but we have to raise it. You have to figure out a way to generate that revenue either internally with some changes in your seating structure, your donation structure, or you have to go out and raise the money. And my fear is that the donor fatigue is right around the corner. And I understand their frustration. They're paying a lot of money and donating a lot of money to guys that may or may not stay more than a year. And if I'm a donor, that's frustrating. It's one thing to be an owner of a team. That's in some ways that's what the donors are nowadays with NIL. But without contracts that are keeping guys around for a long period of time, it can be frustrating.
One of the things that Travis and I have talked about a lot, it seems to be a key factor in success, longevity in the Division I college basketball world, coaching world specifically, is the connection to the community. You kind of mentioned it there for a moment about how Omaha has been a great support system for you. Was it that way from the minute you walked in, or what did you do to be able to build that connection to that community? I
mean, that's always been an important part of every stop that I've had, whether I was an assistant at the University of North Dakota and being active in the community there, to Wayne State College, to UNI, to Iowa State. I think you have to be out and you have to be active, and people want to get to know you. And, especially when you're going to continue to ask them to do things for you, you can't lock yourself in the office as a head basketball coach and just put your head down and go to work. To me, it's a very important part of the job. And to be honest, I think it's more fun when you're successful, when you have a lot of people that you've developed relationships with in your community that celebrate with you. And it's a little bit easier to get through the tough times when they get to know exactly who you are and what you stand for. So that, Omaha is an incredibly welcoming community. It's one of the biggest small towns I've ever been part of. You ask somebody in Omaha where they go to school, they tell you where they went to high school, not where they went to college. And
Creighton Prep. My son went to prep, right?
Yeah, back in Iowa, they'll tell you where they went to college. So that part of it has been really cool for me. And, it's hard to believe it's been 15 years already. But, I've got, a ton of great relationships in this community that are they're going to be with me for the rest of my life.
Don't kid yourself, Ross. I live in Omaha, as you know. It's an election year in Omaha. He could run for mayor and win, and he's got the best post-game routine because there's a bar right across the street from the CHI Center called Let It Fly, which is a Creighton-themed bar. And after the games, you just show up and have a cocktail or two, right?
It's perfect. Win or lose, you stop over at Let It Fly for a quick cocktail after the game. But it's a special place, as Travis knows. People have really bought into what we're doing and how we're doing it. And, to see the CHI Health Center full game after game after game, you don't have to worry about that part of it. So you can concentrate between the four lines and making sure you're getting the right guys in the program that fit our culture, and then try to put a brand of basketball on the floor that's fun to watch.
So let's dive back into the transfer portal, because a lot of people that watch this show and listen to this show are Iowa fans. And you grabbed two after Fran McCaffrey left Iowa. You grabbed two former Hawkeyes. Let's start with Owen Freeman. I remember when he played over there, I think it was his freshman year, his mid-range jumper against you guys was tremendous that night. You lose Ryan Kalkbrenner. You replace him with Owen Freeman. What does he bring to your style of basketball?
Yeah, and I remember that night vividly, Travis. And that's, I remember telling my staff after that game, that young kid is going to be special. He's going to be really good before it's all over. And when the decision was made with Fran, those players were allowed to go in the transfer portal at that time. So it was before the transfer portal opened. So, we were kind of able to get a head start. I was able to meet with, both Owen and Josh, and then get him to campus relatively quickly. And, I think Owen was really impressed when he was at Creighton for that game, to see the crowd and how into it, and how the entire community, gravitates to Creighton games and supports them. And he also got a feel for how we play the game. That even though Kalkbrenner was 7'1", we played with great pace. The spacing is great. There's a lot of shooting. So when there's a lot of shooting, it leaves a lot of one-on-one situations for the guys inside. So I think he felt it was a great fit for him. And obviously I thought it was a great fit for us. And he's certainly a different player than Ryan Kalkbrenner. Defensively, we'll have to do some things differently than we did with Ryan. But I think Owen's ability to score with his back to the basket and in the mid-range, as you alluded to, is really elite. And it's going to be fun to come up with some ways to get him the basketball.
And Travis got another one, because I was in this transfer portal world, Coach. How do you find the guys that are the right culture fit when it seems like it's got to be kind of shotgun wedding type of situation? You got to make decisions fast, got to sign contracts or whatever these are called, got to get kids in quick. How do you know you're getting the right culture guy? How do you vet those situations properly?
Yeah, I call it speed dating.
That's a great way to put it. Thank you. Yeah,
you swipe left or swipe right, whatever that used to be. You make a quick decision and you move on to the next. But that's really important to us, and obviously where they came from and who they played for. I've known Fran McCaffrey forever, and I know the type of program that he runs. I also know that Josh and Owen had tremendous respect for Fran, and I think they'd still be there if Fran was still there. That's how highly they thought of him. The fact that they played for a coach that coached him and was about the right things. And, because I'm from the state of Iowa, I've watched those guys grow up. My dad's a huge Hawkeye fan. So I really knew everything about them. Josh grew up right across the river in Council Bluffs, so I was familiar with him in high school. But, the guys from other places, you just make a lot of phone calls. And, you talk to people that have competed against them. You've talked to their coaching staff. You go all the way back to high school and AAU. And then you get them on campus and you see how they interact with your guys. And, our guys understand our culture. The leadership last year with Ashworth and Kalkbrenner and Jemiah Neal did a great job of setting the stage for what needs to come next with these younger guys we have in our program. So they have a good feel when these kids visit campus, what they're about. And, we've built this program with unselfish people, and selfish people aren't going to really work very well here. So I think unselfish people kind of gravitate towards other people that are unselfish. So we're really excited about the group that we have. And now the reality of it is, Ross, if you do this, it used to be you'd have 9 or 10 guys returning, you replace 3, maybe 4 every year. So you knew what you had, and you recruited those other 3 or 4 for a year or 2 years, sometimes more. So you really knew it inside and out, and you had a pretty good idea how it was going to fit together. The reality of it in the world we live in, and I tell our booster base this all the time, the NIL money doesn't guarantee success. It gives us a chance. There is going to be a time when we bring a group together that we think is going to fit really well together, and it's not going to, because you have so many pieces that you're trying to fit together every single year. So you do the best job you can, trying to do the research that you have to do to make sure they fit. And I'm hopeful that that's the case with this group.
You mentioned Josh Dix. Did you recruit him a lot in high school? And for as many 3-pointers as you shoot, and you lose that, Ashworth, I mean, it looks on paper and video, it's like a perfect fit.
Yeah, and Josh came out of high school the same time we had Trey Alexander. So the reality of it wasn't a great fit for us at that particular point in time. but obviously I've watched Josh grow and develop, and being from here, when he decided to go into the portal, he became a huge priority for us. And I think once he got here, and again, he's played against us, he's watched, they were going to games. I think they had season tickets till he was a freshman in high school. His family did. So they've watched us play. They've seen the different teams that we've had go through here. And while the names on the back of the jerseys have changed, the way that we've tried to play the game has not changed. And I think Josh was really attracted to that. And it's going to be fun for him to really have his family and his friends here in town really be part of his last year.
Coach, you seem like, go ahead, Trav, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Ross.
I was just going to say that you seem like you're enjoying this. I mean, a lot of the coaches we talk to, you can feel the stress and the changing world weighing heavy on them. I don't see that from you.
I mean, Ross, it's really about the people you're around. And, and I've got obviously a lot of friends in the coaching profession, and most of the time on March 1st or late February, when we're talking to one another, a lot of guys can't wait for the season to be over. Even guys that are having a successful year that are going to go to the NCAA tournament. And that wasn't the case with this team. I hated to see it end. Because they were such a joy to be around every single day. They really celebrated each other's success. And, we had a lot of adversity in November and December. We weren't very good. We had injuries. We had moved guys around. A couple guys left the program at Christmas time. And so we had to reinvent ourselves. And it was just really a lot of fun. It was really enjoyable. And, I just came from a workout with the guys downstairs a couple hours ago. And, they're fun to be around. And, that's what's kind of kept me going in this era where a lot of guys have gotten out of it. And, they say a lot of the things that I'm thinking, but as long as I love coaching and being on the floor and I can be around the right people, I've got a great coaching staff and a great support staff. If you enjoy your job, then you don't have a lot to complain about.
Okay, but you have technically named your successor in Alan Huss, which was funny. I was telling you beforehand that before Brian Harden hired Hendo, I'm like, hire Alan Huss. And he looked at me and goes, oh, he's on the bigger and better things. And 2 days later, he's announced the coach in waiting. So you've essentially announced your retirement in a way. You're young. You're 60 years old?
Yep.
Have you put a timetable on that? Are you talking 1 year, 2 years, or is it whatever you feel like?
There's not necessarily a timetable. And obviously I want to be fair to Coach Huss as well. But, I've been here 15 years, and it's, I think the longer I'm doing this, the more I think maybe it's a young person's game with with everything that we have to do. But I still enjoy it, and Al's given me the flexibility to walk away when I want to walk away. But I've always felt I wanted one of my guys to get this job when I was done. And what you see now, and what I've tried to explain to our administration is, programs don't gradually go south anymore. It used to be, you had a good year and then you weren't quite as good, and then it fell a little more, and then that third year kind of you fell off the table. And well, now you fall off a cliff in 1 year or in one season. And I use DeVries as an example. He goes to Indiana, and it's the Indiana job, which is a great job. And 4 days after he takes the job, he has nobody on the roster. I mean, his son was probably even thinking twice about going. So, I didn't want that to happen to this program when I'm done. I wanted to be, and my hope was it would be DeVries or Huss. And obviously when Darren took the Indiana job, he was probably out. So Al and I had some conversations a couple months ago about the possibility if it presented itself. And fortunately I was able to get the administration here on board. And it just allows me to walk away from a program that means a lot to me, knowing that it's in good hands, knowing that it's not going to implode if I decide to retire. And that's a comforting way to go out as a head coach, because obviously I've invested a lot in this program, and I want it to continue to be successful long after I've been here. And next year will be, what is it? Dana was here 16. Next year will be my 16th year, so it's 32 years with two head coaches at Creighton. And my hope is, another 15 years from now, it'll be three head coaches at Creighton in almost 50 years when Coach Huss takes over. So no definitive timeline. I'm going to keep doing it as long as I enjoy it, but then be really happy to hand the reins to him when that time comes.
I mean, would you say, okay, I don't want to coach anymore, but I could be like a GM and still be involved? Or when you're out, are you like, I'm going to Arizona and I'm golfing?
Well, I'm kind of already the GM. So
That's true. That's fair.
I'm trying to get rid of some of those jobs. We don't have a GM, so I think that's me. But when the time comes, I'll definitely want to spend some time in Arizona in the winter. But I'm going to be part of Creighton basketball as long as he'll allow me to be part of it. And anything that I can do to help him in the community when that time comes, I'm going to be there to do it. These people mean a lot to me. This place has given me a lot, and I owe so much to this university and to this community that I'll continue to give back as long as I can.
I tell you what, they're two great men. You were talking about D-Rock. My mom just passed away, and one of the first texts I got was from D-Rock just saying something. And then I wore a shirt the other day on Facebook, and it was an old Creighton basketball camp shirt. And Alan wrote me, he goes, "Hey, that was from the 2002 camp." And I'm like, oh, my God, you remember that stuff. It cracks me up. Before we let you go, you mentioned you were over in Cascade this past weekend. How often do you get back at home?
Not enough. Fortunately, I've been back there a couple times the last month. I'm sorry to hear about your mom. My mom passed away 2 years ago this summer. So my dad's still back there, 91 years old. So I try to get back, and I've got a good friend from high school that has some health issues that I'm trying to get back and see him as much as I can as well. So I just think as you get older, and as you know, when you lose a parent, you want to be there as much as you can. And I've got a brother that's on our home farm and two brothers in Cedar Rapids, and they carry a lot of the weight. I don't feel like I do my part very often. So it's great to get back there because when you go back to Cascade, they don't give a hell what you're still the same idiot you were when you were in high school when you walk into the one of the bars in Cascade, and that makes it a lot of fun to go back.
All right, Coach. Thank you so much for your time. Good stuff, especially about Owen Freeman and Josh Dix. Yeah. Being around the program the way I have been, I know they're going to be difference makers. And I know Tom Chattel from the Omaha World Herald wrote an article like when the season was over, did Creighton miss its chance? I think you filled the gaps to where you still have a chance.
Yeah, we hope so. I mean, and obviously, St. John's and UConn's flexing their muscles a little bit in the transfer portal right now. But there's great teams and great coaches across this league, and we think we've got a group that will be connected. They'll be unselfish. With two freshmen, and I think we'll have 4 sophomores or 5 sophomores. So we'll be relatively young in terms of what I think Auburn was the same age as Oklahoma City Thunder when we played them this year in the NCAA tournament. So there's some old teams that you run into, and we're going to roll some young guys out there, but we're going to have fun. I think we'll get better as the season goes on, and hopefully can get back to that NCAA tournament.
Best of luck, Coach. Thank you so much for giving us time.
Great to catch up, guys. Thank you.